welcome to Centre Court, all thanks to ONF, Australian Design and Own. I'm Bianca Chatfield, and of course joining me at the desk is Madison Brown. Maddie, we're getting closer and closer to that diamond selection. I know it's coming up soon.
We are, but there were some upsets on the weekend, so I'm sure some people are maybe trembling in their boots a little bit. Some performances to come, hopefully.
Well, as you mentioned it, let's check out the weekend that was and some of the unbelievable games that took place. I think the first one that we want to focus on is the Magpies and the Thunderbirds at John Cain Arena. My goodness, the Magpies, what an excellent effort for all of them.
I mean, their last home game, the fans came out. They really took control of the game right from the very beginning. We'll talk a little bit about the Thunderbirds in a moment, but, you know, you look at that second quarter, they both didn't really put a lot of score on the board. They had a bit of a refresh. We even saw some little tacticals happening with the Thunderbirds as well. So great to obviously see the Magpies get that win, because I think they'd been wanting it for the last couple of weeks with lots of things going on behind the scenes.
And the Fever and the Lightning, that was over at RAC Arena, the biggest crowd that they have had over there, over 10,000 people, which was incredible. Fever got the win though. I mean, it was a bit dicey towards the end there. They seemed dominant most of the game, but right towards the end in that last couple of minutes, I couldn't believe that they were even worried about Lightning, but it's just like this mental hoodoo, it seems.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been put in that situation multiple times this season. So, you know, we saw obviously Dan Ryan call that time out. 5,000 goals to Fowler. Let's obviously attribute that. That's a great milestone to her. But obviously in those dying moments, they had a timeout, reviewed as to what they were going to do, and then they went out there and you didn't actually see them execute it. So, you know, is it a miscommunication? Did they not hear it? I mean, obviously lots of people in the stadium, so it would have been loud. But yeah, they just seem to tense up a little bit, so they've got to play with a bit more freedom and not be so fearful in those dying moments.
That one will be interesting to watch how the Fever play out the next couple of games. Then we had the derby up in New South Wales, the Swifts and the Giants. I mean, I don't know about you, I thought the Swifts would win this one more convincingly.
Yeah, I thought so too. They've obviously come into a lot of form. They're still obviously ticking over those wins, and I think for the Swifts this year, they've played ugly. They've played obviously, you know, with close encounters. They've also had a couple of blowouts in the last couple of weeks, but for me, it was more so having Jo Harten back on there for the Giants. I mean, she just doesn't look right, and I just, you know, you wonder, are they trying to give her a farewell? Is she going to play on next year? You know, but at what cost to the team's success to maybe just have a bit of that momentum and get those extra minutes into Matisse Leatherborough? But yeah, she just doesn't look quite right. So, you know, what risk do you play her at?
And she is so influential in the side, isn't she? From a leadership perspective, you can tell they all really look to her. They love her voice out there. But yeah, you know, she doesn't look like she should be out there right now. Put Matisse Leatherborough on, let her get as much experience as she possibly can. And then, of course, in Brisbane yesterday was the Vixens and the Firebirds. I think this was a big upset, although I got the sense that this might happen during the week.
You did. You actually spoke about it last week on the show and said, you know, I think the Firebirds could take this one on the Vixens. And they did. I mean, you know, you talk about who the Vixens start with. They've been seeing some rotations. Once again, great to see Mundy out there. But yeah, the Firebirds just absolutely rose to the occasion. Obviously, you were up there. You said it was a cauldron. You said they absolutely nailed it.
Oh, do you know what? I loved it. I loved the whole experience. I'm glad I got to be a part of it up there, because it was phenomenal the way they put on a show, but also there was this kind of another like aura around the stadium around wanting Danelle Wallam and Lisa Mai just to absolutely dominate, and they just rose to the occasion. They were phenomenal to watch. Now let's take a look quickly at the ladder, and we know that the top 4 teams are locked in that they're in finals, but the Swifts have gone straight to the top of the ladder. That's their 8th win so far in a row this season. That's pretty phenomenal from them. Then the Thunderbirds, and then, of course, the Fever and the Vixens. Anything I reckon is going to happen in that 2nd, 3rd and 4th position. But, I mean, we've got so much more to talk about.
I know. The one thing about that ladder, though, it just shows the importance of potentially a home final, because we have seen in the last couple of rounds, if you're at home in those dying moments when it's a close encounter, the crowd get behind you and it starts to push those teams over the line. So to get a home final is crucial for those top 4 teams.
Well, that was the weekend that was, all thanks to OMF. Upgrade your sleep game with a quality mattress from Australian designed and owned OMF. Now, Maddie, I'm handing over to you for Maddie's Minute.
Well, I want to talk about the Thunderbirds. We've talked about a hoodoo at John Cain Arena for opponents coming in playing the Vixens, but 2 times this year they've proved that they are really struggling to play at John Cain Arena. They're -21 against the Vixens and then -3 obviously to the Magpies. They just don't look like they can play in the venue, and it's obviously a testing, to see what they can do, because we know that the grand final is going to be obviously in Melbourne at that stadium. So, what do you think? Do you actually think that they can play at this arena, or like?
Oh, of course they can. They've got such a brilliant game. They can, it shouldn't matter what court you're on, should it? But I think probably everyone in the media, like us, talking it up like it's a big hoodoo and it's a big fortress for the Vixens to be at John Cain Arena. I think we add to it.
Yeah.
And as players, we would know you can't help but consume some of that noise.
Yep.
You can't help but not listen to it and hear it and wonder if it's true and wonder why it's so hard to win there. So I think the Thunderbirds just need to do a bit more work, probably mentally, in just blocking out all the noise of people like us who don't shut up about it.
Yeah, we also saw obviously Coach Tanya Ops take him out at 3/4 time, away from the noise, away from the environment, away from the cameras. Who knows what she said? They did come out and fire in that 4th quarter, but just not enough. And a big occasion for the Magpies. So it was actually really nice to see them get the W.
Oh, there is just so much emotion around it, isn't it? It is great to see the Magpies all doing well. And actually, in some part, the tears aside, actually enjoying what they're doing out there. Okay, that's Maddie's Minute. And we're going to now get to take 5, because I think I'm in the hot seat now.
You are.
We're going to probably chop and change around a lot of these topics, but I'm ready, Maddie, I'm ready.
Well, the first one obviously is about the Magpies. Let's just go in a little bit more depth. I want you to have a look at this on the screen, because you can just see the emotion and passion in this video. You look at it. It's amazing. I think that's exactly what we were hoping to see from them in the last couple of rounds of seeing the black and white out there. But what was your take on that?
Look, I love it. Do you know what? Kudos to the Magpies. They have always been very good at all their social media, at allowing the access. So many, believe it or not, so many teams are really funny about allowing the cameras into the change rooms to film the song. Magpies always been completely open with it. I love it. I love that they're saying, they've got 2 more times. It's no more Collingwood forever. It's only Collingwood for 2 more games. Like, do you know what? You got to laugh your way through it, because what else can they do?
Yeah.
So kudos to the players. Kudos to the leadership group, Ash Brazel, Jiva Mentor, how they spoke after the game. None of us can really imagine what it would be like to be in that side right now and going through what they're going through.
No, and obviously having someone personal to me within it, they've spoken about that feeling of numbness and just kind of being in that hamster wheel of continually just ticking over, getting through it, because the second they stop, they feel like it's just going to come. And you could probably see that relief on their face once they got that win. They get to sing the song. It was just like, oh my goodness, everything has come to the head, and it's just nice to be able to celebrate and enjoy a moment. So yeah, kudos to the Magpies. It was
actually, I was just going to ask you off the back. I know it's not about you right now, but I need to ask you this. When we talk about the Collingwood players, are they having the same training schedule, like strength conditioning? Are they doing it all like they usually would do it in the season, or are they having a lot more kind of social time together to try and help, heal and work through it?
The whole routine and schedule is staying the same. There's even a few extra added things in there. They also understand that they are a team and it's one in, all in, and they've got some players that will potentially be going to a Netball World Cup. So I think they want to just finish it off and go, you know what, we're in incredible facilities. Let's make the most of this, because we're not going to be here in another couple of weeks.
Well, so, and to that point, in 2 weeks' time, their season is over. players preparing for the World Cup, players who, might be recovering from injuries or whatever, you know that most clubs will have then their kind of post-season review, go through all that process. You still use the gym, you still do all of that because you can't let your body just go completely. Do they have contingencies in place or do they stay part of the club until the end of the contract, which is the 30th of September?
Oh, I actually have no idea on that one. I think, for obviously those players preparing for a World Cup, absolutely. I think anyone who's not might go and use it a little bit, but they might just be like, you know what, the last month and a bit has just been so much and taken a toll. I wouldn't be surprised if half the players just get out of the state and just go to some nice sunshine somewhere else and just really switch off and relax. But enough about the Magpies. Let's go to the Swifts. Locked in Grand Finalists. Do you think they'll be there? Because they look like they're doing really well.
Yes, 100% they are going to be there. I mean, 100%. I don't know. At a guess, 100%. But no, I think the Swifts are, one, they're in form. The tactics, the way they play the game, loving it. Bryony Aikul, I almost love how the way she coaches, but also I feel like any other coach she comes up against, she just likes to tactically outmaneuver them, and I really enjoy that. And at the moment, I reckon it's looking, as we get closer to the grand final, I think the Fever and the Swifts looking likely to end up in that grand final. Again, I could be completely wrong, but then I would really enjoy the tactics and the strategy behind Dan Ryan v Bryony Aikul. All on that. I hope that we, from Fox Netball, have them mic'd up for the entire game because I think that would be really fascinating to watch.
So talk about the other two teams, obviously in finals contention, the Thunderbirds and the Vixens, both having losses on the weekend to teams in the bottom four. What do they need to do?
Oh, it's certainly not ideal, I don't think. You want to go into a final series with confidence. You want to go in knowing that you can actually have some consistency, put your foot down and be able to beat teams, even though I think the Firebirds certainly showed up in a different way against the Vixens and they were really hard to beat. They played really well. We've got to give them credit. If you're the Thunderbirds and Vixens, you need to win the next two games. You need to get yourself into some form of momentum, but you also need to be able to execute the little things well, do the basics well. We know Simone McInnes very well. That's how she coaches the team, and they will be, I imagine, absolutely, what's the word that I can use on camera? I was thinking they're going to be absolutely smashed at training this week because that is what she's going to want to see from them. And I think if they can get that right, then they can beat anyone. We've seen it. They've proven that this year. But they've got to be able to do it well against anyone that they're playing. It
just even shows that all top four teams have had their moments of weakness, moments where they've been tested, they've been put in uncomfortable situations. Sometimes they've risen to the occasion, other times they've absolutely fallen short. So it really is anyone's game or anyone's premiership to take in 2023.
And we change our grand finalists every week.
Yeah, I know. So. We've never nailed it anyway.
No.
Over to Netball Queensland, you were obviously there for their First Nations round. We've seen over the last 2 weeks every team get a home game. Do you think it was the best one that they had done over the course of the 2 weeks?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I haven't been a part of all of them, but for me, the biggest standout, and getting to talk to Sharon Finnan-White, obviously. So she is Diamond 105. She's the second First Nations athlete to ever represent Australia. And Sharon has such a huge insight. She's a coach with the Diamond Spirit girls. And she said, credit where credit's due. Netball Queensland got a huge wake-up call a couple of years ago with that they didn't have enough support, resources around a pathway program for our First Nations athletes, that, there was nothing else around education and learning for everybody else to really indulge in the culture and understand. And she just said it hasn't just been this week, but it has been everything that they've done in the lead up this year, really making sure that there's something for everybody. And so I think kudos to Netball Queensland because it's working. I think to see Danelle Wallam and Lisa Mai just not just dominate the game, it's not about their performance, but the way everyone embraced them. And I tell you, there was this aura around Nissan Arena that they were going to win no matter what because everyone was behind them and everyone was just loving what they could see and what they were seeing out there.
So, final one. What needs to happen in these next couple of rounds for some of these top teams?
Okay.
What's your take?
So, for me, we just mentioned it, Thunderbirds Vixens need to win the next 2 games. That is a given. My other thing, the Magpies, everyone has to get behind them, including their own club. We need to see some of their execs, board members, support these players. They've got 1 game left in Melbourne, then they go to Tassie. I believe, the whole club need to actually get behind it. They need to embrace that they've got 2 more games and support these players and coaching staff who are going from having everything at the club to nothing. They've got to show up. So that is a really important part for me, I think. And who knows what else needs to happen, but those are the most important ones for me.
What about Netball Australia? We probably need a new franchise sometime soon, Bianca.
Yes,
so there's so much stuff to think about. And one actually thing, just to finish on, we've seen that, or heard in the grapevine, that Netball Victoria have put an application forward, which is really exciting. Do you know any more about that?
Well, all I know is that they don't want to let it go if they don't have to. It was about Netball Australia putting out what the proposal would look like, or what, you know, support will be around it. Then Netball Victoria, then, you know, or whoever else wants to, Netball Tassie as well. And I believe the Gold Coast have said they're not ready quite yet, but they would be ready soon. And then the interesting one for me too is Jeff Lord, who was part of the Melbourne Victory startup. Now, this isn't the first time Jeff Lord from Belgravia Leisure has shown interest in Super Netball. When I was president of the Players Association, I remember speaking to him in the lead up to Suncorp Super Netball coming in, and he was interested then. So I don't know how serious that bid is or whether he will put in a proposal, but I think it's got to be a really thorough process. It's great that they've appointed an independent committee as such to go through that process. Big
answers
job.
need to happen, and they need to come fast, because some of these players need to know what's happening for next year. And
I mean, how crazy to think next couple of weeks we could have a new team, it'll have a new name, new colours and everything. That to me blows my mind, that how you figure all that out in such a short space of time. But anyway, maybe the teams the girls will sign up to a team with no name. It'll just be like, we want you for this particular team. It'll be based here, and we'll sort the rest out a bit later.
If you sign up to the lifestyle. Don't sign up to the colours or the team just yet. Just sign up to a really cool lifestyle.
We should ask for all of your feedback on that. If there was a new team, what would you like it to be called? I mean, maybe you can just guess where you think it's going to be. But also, what colours do you think it should have? Make sure you get in touch with us on our socials. Maddie, that was another centre court. There was so much to talk about, and I think as we get deeper into the season and the finals, there's going to be even more to talk about. But that's all thanks to OMF, Australian Designed and Owned. Thanks again for joining us.